For more than a decade, the case remained one of the darkest and most harrowing in the region. 3 people disappeared without a trace, no witnesses, no answers. The investigations seemed to revolve around each other, only fueling the family's despair and the frustration of the police officers involved. The prime suspect? A cold, intelligent man who denied any involvement, even when surrounded by suspicion. Time passed. The case went cold. But what no one expected was that, from the absolute silence, something would emerge. A piece of paper, hidden, worn by time, and on it, just 6 words. 6 words that would change everything. 6 words that would reveal the horror buried in the past. The disappearances began in a small town where everyone knew everyone. First came Clara, 26, a psychology student. Then came Lucas, 34, a university professor. Months later, the 3rd victim, Helena, 19, who had just left home to live alone. 3 different profiles, 3 lives interrupted. No apparent connection. The investigations were intense. Searches were conducted on roads, rivers, and forests. Thousands of hours of interrogations, forensic examinations, and hypotheses were discarded. But no solid evidence, no bodies, no sounds, only silence and absence. Local newspapers printed photos of the victims daily. Families clung to the hope, however small, that they were alive. Grief mixed with fear, and fear turned to anger, especially when the prime suspect was released due to lack of evidence. And this is where everything starts to change. If you're interested in true stories like this, which explore the darker side of the human mind, it's worth sticking around. There's much more to come. From the beginning, one name was circulating behind the scenes of the investigation: Adriano Kelleher, reserved man, a computer technician with no criminal record, but with a disturbing presence. He knew, albeit superficially, the 3 victims, enough to arouse suspicion. Neighbors described him as oddly polite, someone who rarely made eye contact and seemed to live in a world of his own. He worked nights and slept during the day, and no one knew exactly who he socialized with. He had no social media or close friends, a modern-day ghost. The police questioned him a few times. He cooperated. He answered everything calmly, without hesitation, without any emotional changes, almost as if he'd been expecting it. Nothing in the car, nothing in the house, no trace of a struggle, no DNA. His alibi, while not perfect, was plausible enough. No bodies, no evidence, and with time ticking, he remained free. But there was something in his gaze that bothered the investigators. Something that couldn't be recorded in reports or included in reports. The absence of any trace of guilt. After the 3rd disappearance, the case lost traction in the media. New tragedies dominated the news, and the public began to treat the story as yet another unsolved mystery. The families, however, did not give up. They continued to demand answers, but the system seemed to have shelved the case. And Adriano? He went on with his life as if nothing had happened. He changed addresses twice, found another job, and began living even more secluded. Without arousing suspicion, without committing any new crimes, at least as far as anyone knew. The investigators behind the scenes continued to watch. They waited for a mistake, a new lead. But nothing came. No unusual movements, no connection to recent disappearances. It was as if he had vanished from history along with the victims. Time, in this case, was the true accomplice. For years, the silence was absolute, until suddenly, an unexpected twist emerged from an unlikely place: the past. The turnaround happened almost by chance. During the renovation of an old house where Adriano had lived for only a few months, one of the workers found a cardboard box hidden under a floorboard. Inside were seemingly ordinary objects: old books, a cracked mug, moldy papers. But at the bottom of the box, folded with almost ceremonial care, was a note. The paper was yellowed, and the ink faded with age. Still, It was perfectly legible. 6 words written by hand, in a firm, slow hand. They rest where the sun dies. The sentence fell like a bombshell behind the scenes of the police. It wasn't just a poetic enigma. It was a veiled confession, and more than that, a direction. Why would Adriano have kept this note? Was it a mistake, a ritual, a way to perpetuate the secret? The discovery reignited the case, this time with a much more intense atmosphere. What had previously been speculation was now a game of psychological interpretation, and the race to decipher the phrase began. Now tell me, what do you think he meant by "where the sun sets"? What would be your first guess if you were in the police's shoes? They rest where the sun dies. 6 words, a mystery, a code. To most people, this phrase would seem merely poetic, even harmless. But to investigators, it smelled like a clue. It was the first real connection to Adriano and to the disappearance of the victims. The choice of words wasn't random. Rest suggested death. They, plural, clearly referred to more than one victim. And where the sun dies. That was the key. The phrase seemed like a geographical metaphor, a symbolic way of indicating direction, as if the killer himself were offering a final provocation, or perhaps a desire to be discovered, but on his own terms. The most disturbing part. After analyzing the writing, experts confirmed it was Adriano's handwriting. The question now was, where exactly does the sun die? They rest where the sun dies. It's not just a phrase, it's a mirror into the mind of someone who doesn't just want to hide, but control the narrative of one's own crime. For criminal psychology, this type of message carries a common trait among killers with narcissistic or psychopathic profiles. The need to transform crime into something theatrical, almost symbolic. It's not enough to commit the act, it must be marked enigmatically, like a signature. The metaphor Adriano uses suggests emotional detachment. He doesn't say where I killed them, nor where I left them, but where the sun dies. An almost poetic use to describe the location of bodies. This reveals not only coldness, but also a desire for domination. He wants others to struggle to decipher it. You want to feel superior, more intelligent, unattainable. Furthermore, there's something perversely ritualistic about this choice of words. The idea of rest implies some kind of end, as if he believes he's somehow liberating his victims. It's precisely this symbolic language that so attracts forensic psychologists. Behind every metaphor, there's a piece of the criminal psyche trying to reveal itself, even if only in disguise. Upon receiving the note, the police knew they had a valuable clue, but also an extremely challenging one. The sentence didn't say exactly where the bodies were, only a cryptic hint. It was like trying to solve a riddle within a mystery. The researchers began analyzing maps of the region, focusing on places where the sunset was most visible and impactful. They examined the hills west of the city, abandoned rural areas, and even regions where the horizon disappeared into shadow. It was a meticulous effort, even involving experts in geography and symbolism. The police didn't want to waste time searching vast areas without clear directions. Interpreting the note became the central focus of the search. For weeks, search teams were sent to suspected locations, always scanning the horizon, looking for the end of the sun described in the note. This enigma ended up uniting the investigators in an intense task force, driven by the hope of finally ending the family's suffering. After much research, one place began to stand out. An abandoned field on the outskirts of town, known among longtime residents as Twilight Valley. There, the hills caused the sun to disappear almost instantly below the horizon, creating a permanent shadow at dusk, just as the note says. The location was difficult to access, surrounded by dense trees and nearly forgotten trails. No one had visited the valley for years, making it ideal for hiding secrets. The police organized a silent operation, bringing in teams specializing in underground searches. Sniffer dogs began sniffing the area, and ground experts analyzed every inch of soil. It was a macabre scene where silence and nature seemed to combine to conceal a terrifying past. There, the six-word phrase took shape, and unfortunately, a cruel confirmation. What the police found in that valley shocked everyone. Buried beneath layers of earth and leaves were the bodies of the 3 missing victims. Their state of decomposition indicated they had been there for years, exactly where the note suggested, where the sun dies, in the heart of Twilight Valley. The confirmation of that note was the final straw in an investigation marked by doubt and suffering. For the families, it finally offered a painful moment of closure, the chance for a dignified burial and justice served. For the investigators, it was a mixture of relief and sadness, a bitter victory against human cruelty. If this story is impacting you, leave a like so that more people can learn about this case and the complex mind behind it. Why would Adriano write a note that indirectly revealed his darkest secret? Criminal psychology experts have put forward several hypotheses. One of them is disguised guilt, an unconscious attempt to lighten the burden he was carrying. Writing that message would be a way of confessing, even if hidden in metaphors, as if asking for forgiveness, or at least acknowledgement. Another possibility is the vanity and the desire for control. Many killers feel the need to dominate not only the victim, but also the investigation. By leaving cryptic clues, he maintained control of the game, even when he was off the scene. It can also be a gesture of provocation, a final challenge for the police, a way of saying, "I was smarter than you, but here is my legacy." These motivations are not mutually exclusive. They can coexist, revealing a complex mind full of contradictions. Adriano Keller exhibits characteristics that are extensively studied in criminal psychology. His behavior, including his cryptic messages, reflects a well-known pattern among psychopaths who enjoy playing games with authorities. They possess a high degree of intelligence and a distorted sense of superiority. For these criminals, leaving clues is a way of asserting power and dominance over the situation, a kind of macabre game where the winner proves the smartest. Furthermore, these individuals tend to be cold, calculating, and incapable of genuine empathy. To them, victims are mere objects, and the suffering of others is just part of the entertainment. The psychological complexity behind these attitudes challenges even the most experienced experts, and it is often difficult to predict their actual actions or motivations. The story of the six-word note isn't unique in the world of criminology. Many famous killers have also left cryptic clues, almost as if to ensure their immortality in books and in people's minds. For example, the Zodiac, a serial killer who terrorized California in the 1960s and 1970s, sent encrypted letters to newspapers, challenging the police and the public to decipher his codes. Another case is that of Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, who sent provocative letters to the police and the media, displaying a game of power and psychological control. These behaviors reflect a pattern. For some criminals, crime is so important that they want to make their mark, not just with the act, but with a legacy that challenges even the best detectives. With the discovery of the bodies and the note in hand, Adriano Keller's trial took on a new dimension. The note was presented as crucial evidence, not just as a geographical clue, but as a direct manifestation of the criminal mind. Criminal psychology experts were called upon to explain to the jury the symbolic meaning of the message and the defendant's profile. During the trial, Adriano remained calm, almost dismissive, as if he were in control until the end. But the evidence was irrefutable, and the veiled confession in the note weighed heavily in the conviction. The case was closed, but it left an important legacy for criminology. Proof that even in silence and concealment, the criminal's mind can reveal itself in surprising ways, whether through words, gestures, or enigmatic clues. This 6-word note was much more than a simple clue. It was the silent voice of a criminal who, even in the end, wanted to control the story he himself created. It shows how the human mind can be at once cold, calculating, and profoundly enigmatic. And you, what do you think motivated Adriano to leave this message? Was it guilt, pride, a desire for power, or something even more complex? I'd love to hear your opinion. Leave your comment below, share your theories and questions. And if you like this story and want to uncover other criminal minds with me, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Until the next investigation, where the truth is always hidden between the lines.